At this time, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Let the record indicate that the following board members are present. To my left, your right, Bill Donovan, Shane Thomas, and Matthew Tipperman. My name is George Maurer. At this time, I'd like to call the zoning officer for the statement on the case.
Good evening. The property is located at 2828 Hanover Pike and is in the R15 and the R20 zoning district. In this zoning district, a community solar energy generating system is a conditional use requiring Board of Zoning Appeals approval. The entire parcel is 55.84 acres, and the solar area will consist of 16.7 acres. Originally, a concept plan was submitted showing 40 residents in this parcel. However, due to access issues for Route 30, the owners decided to use this parcel for a different purpose. Therefore, he is here today requesting a conditional use approval per Town of Manchester Code 250-49G and 250-43L, and if granted, the use would be allowed with further review by the Planning and Zoning Commission. And that's my statement.
At this time, I introduce the zoning statement into the hearing record. Do I have a second?
A second.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to ask all who will be speaking on this case to stand to be sworn in. If you wish to speak on the case, please stand to be sworn in. Shane?
Do you solemnly declare or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony which you are about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Thank you. This time I'd like to ask the applicant or representative for the applicant to come forward. State your name and address for the record and then present your case.
Good evening, Kelly Schaefer Miller, 73 East Main Street, Westminster, Maryland, 21157. You're gonna have to bear with me a second because I don't want any of this to fall right down on my feet. That would be awesome. Yeah, that would be great. Thank you. Thank you very much. No, this is, thank you. Got my own little table situation right here. Before I get started, I'm going to what I've done is I've prepared a copy of all of the exhibits that we're going to talk through tonight. I just put them all in one packet for everyone, and I've put a copy on the back table as well. I'm not a tech savvy person, Michelle. You tell me if it's on. Is it on? Yes? Okay. Good evening, everyone. Michelle, thank you for the introduction and sort of the outline of the basics of the property here. As Michelle stated, a portion of this property was subject to an annexation petition and resolution in May of 2021. And because of that agreement that accompanied that annexation, this property is limited to 40 residential lots if it were to residentially develop. Obviously, the request here tonight is for a conditional use for solar approval, and so if that premise, it would not develop residentially, but it's important to understand that in background. The property is currently unimproved. It is split zoned R15 and R20. It is in both the priority water service area and priority sewer service area. As I said, we are here today requesting the conditional use, which is allowed in both the R15 and the R20 districts for community solar. A community solar generating system is a defined term in the Maryland Annotated Code, and that is what your code references in defining the use. So effectively, a community solar project is intended to allow for solar developments off-site from the use which they serve, because they're really intended to serve the community. They're intended for one to be able to buy a subscription to them, which then is credited against their electric bill. So that's sort of the premises of a community solar concept. There are no variances being requested here today. All of the setbacks are met, which importantly are double that which is ordinarily required in the zone, as well as the landscaping requirement, which are double those ordinarily required in the zone as well. I would call this the beginning of the process for this development because any specific plan would have to be submitted to the Planning and Zoning Commission and go through a thorough review, which is both open to public comment and public involvement through that process. The applicant today is the property owner who's here and present with me, Mr. Marty Hill, representative of Woodhaven Building and Development. And it would be his intention to work with an actual solar developer to propose a site development plan, specifically outlining the amount of panels and the very technical aspects of the plan would then be subject to a planning commission review. Part of that review would be a stormwater management review as well as other agencies. And I just want to be clear that the plan presented tonight that's on sort of all of these visuals for you and that I've included in your packet in a smaller version as the very first page, is a general layout of the area where the panels would be intended to be located. This is not a technical site plan submittal that shows the very specific technical elements of the plan. So with that, the sort of ground conditions under the panel would be anticipated to remain grass or some sort of, agricultural vegetative type of condition. Also, because I've seen a few concerns noted in the file, I just want to be clear that your code does call for a decommissioning process as well, which requires financial security. So if and when this is approved, and if and when it goes through a site development plan process and receives that approval, and then gets developed, if for whatever reason the solar were no longer to be needed there, working at that site, the actual owner developer would be required to decommission and take out those panels. And if they didn't, there's financial security so that the town can do that, because the point is to not leave the site in sort of a nuisance type looking state. So that is the essence of our request here tonight. What I am going to do is I'm going to walk you through some testimony and of Mr. Marty Hackett from CLSI. He's going to come up and stand next to me at this microphone. And we are going to walk you through all those exhibits that you have as well. All right, Marty. Michelle, tell us if we're too far away from the mic.
That comes out, so you can.
Okay, we can pass it. Do you want to pass it?
Up to you.
We'll try to stand right here, because I can't hold it all this long time. Okay. Marty, can you please introduce yourself, stating your name and address for the record?
Yes, Martin Hackett, 439 East Main Street, Westminster, 21157.
Now, Marty, put that in front of you real quick. Can you please turn to what's been marked as applicant's exhibit 1 in here?
Yes.
Is that a copy of your resume?
Yes, it is.
Can you please walk the board, summarize for the board your professional qualifications?
I've taken continuing education classes for various designs of land planning, transportation, road design, storm drain, stormwater management. I've testified in front of many boards and courts over the last 40 years, specifically the last 37 years in Carroll County. I'm a land planner, land use consultant, and site designer.
And Marty, what is your role in employment right now?
I'm the president of CLSI. I've been there since 1988.
I intend on offering Marty as an expert in the area of site design and planning based on his resume, unless the board has any additional qualifying questions of him.
No, go ahead.
Thank you. I'd like to ask that applicant's exhibit 1 please be entered.
Does the chair accept the exhibit?
Okay. Yes.
Thank you. Marty, was CLSI hired to prepare a plan that accompanied the subject petition?
Yes,
And that's what is sort of shown on all of these screens here tonight, correct?
that's correct.
In preparing that plan, have you had the opportunity to examine the zoning, topography, and natural features on the subject property and the surrounding area?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you are turned right now to what's been marked as applicant's exhibit 2, which is a copy of the town's zoning map. Can you please describe the zoning of the subject property and the zoning of the surrounding areas?
Yeah, the subject property is a combined zoning of R 20,000 and R 15,000. The property surrounding it, some of it's R 10,000, some of it's R 20. And of course, across the street is the school, which is owned conservation or, public conservation.
I'd like to ask that applicant's exhibit 2, which is the zoning map, please be entered.
Yes,
Thank you. Marty, is the subject property currently improved?
I know it is not.
Okay, and you are now looking at what's been marked as applicant's exhibit 3, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Does that generally depict the existing conditions of the property with sort of an overlay of the panel layout?
Yes, it does.
Okay. I'd like to ask that applicant's exhibit 3, which is that ortho aerial, be entered, please.
yes,
Thank you. A portion of this property, Marty, as you heard me say in my opening statement, was subject to an annexation petition and was successfully annexed into the town, correct?
Correct.
During that annexation process, was the intent to propose a residential subdivision of the property?
Yes, it was.
Approximately how many residential lots were contemplated as part of that?
40.
Okay. And that was agreed to through an annexation agreement, was it not?
That's correct.
Is it the intent of the plan before everyone tonight for the solar to replace any of those previously anticipated residential lots?
No.
For the
mean,
solar
for-
for the solar to happen, but not the residential lots to happen?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it your understanding that the property owner here tonight is seeking this approval with the intention of leasing to a solar company who would actually propose a specific technical site development plan?
That's correct.
Okay. You understand that if this approval is received here tonight, that a site plan is still required to be processed and approved through the Manchester Planning Commission?
Yes, it is.
Now, in talking about the specifics of the solar portion of the site that we're proposing here tonight, can you tell the board, well, I guess specifically addressing traffic related to the proposed solar, can you tell the board what the IT trip generation manual is?
The International Trip Generation Manual is, it's a manual nationwide that's based on studies in different regions on similar uses. And they generate these reports to create a matter of how many trips a vehicle will make for any like a specific use. For instance, if it's retail or school-related, residential or whatever. The actual solar does not come up in the manual. And the traffic consultants, when they do studies that they've been involved with these things, the traffic is so minimum, it equates to 0 trips a day. Because they're only visited, once they're up and running and constructed, they're only visited, they might only be visited once a month or whatever if there's a problem, but they get mowed about 3 times a year. So that's really the type of trips you're looking at.
And the trip generation manual that you spoke to, that's a widely accepted document that the traffic engineers use in preparing traffic impact studies, correct?
That's correct.
So you just spoke to sort of what you would anticipate as normal or likely traffic for solar use, but would you say that it's predominantly classified by the occasional maintenance trips, either maintenance trips related to the undercover, under like the grass or the meadow, or to the maintenance of the panels themselves?
That's correct.
Okay. Those maintenance trips are not daily trips, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, would it be fair to say that if you had to average the AM and PM peak trips generated by the use, because of what you just explained, that average would likely be 0?
That's correct.
Now, can you, and you might need to use whichever plan everyone can see, but can you kind of point the board and explain how we anticipate the solar would be accessed for those maintenance trips that we just spoke about?
Sure.
I don't know what makes the most sense.
Let's,
There's also this one.
let's use the, please, let's use the,
That one. Here, Marty,
yeah, that way the people in the audience can see it also.
pull that one.
Man, that's on tight. The access road proposed off the end of Southwestern Avenue, my apologies, is a 16-foot gravel drive that goes back into the actual solar farm itself. The place is surrounded by fencing, and it also will have a gate.
And Marty, can you also point out if there are parking spaces required as part of this use? Where would those be?
Yeah, the parking spaces, they require two, and they're basically shown inside the facility, with right around where the equipment is, the actual control panels and the inverters and so on.
You want to keep holding it, or you want to put it here?
I'll make her hold it.
Okay. Marty, to your knowledge, do solar panels generate any noise?
No, they don't. There might be a little humming noise in the inverters, but that's the only thing. You gotta be rather close to them, sitting on top of them. It's like a transformer.
As part of the site plan process, will this project, if it's approved here tonight, be required to maintain or create a landscaping buffer?
It will. It'll require twice the amount of landscaping in this case. It will require a Class A screening, and it would be whatever that normal screening is for Class A, it would be 2 times that. And then we'll take into consideration the existing vegetation, the existing trees that are on the site currently, and adjacent properties too. There's a lot of mature trees around in some locations around the perimeter, but there's some that don't have any trees.
And that double landscape buffer that you just spoke to, the 2 times the normal requirements, that's specific to the community solar use, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, the panel layout, the solar panel layout that we're showing on the plan, is that just a general estimate of where the panels would be that would be subject to an actual technical submittal?
That's correct.
The plan that is being shown here tonight, does that meet all of the required setback measurements?
Yes, it does.
And in fact, for a solar use, the required setback measurements are twice that of other uses, correct?
That's correct.
Now, have you had the opportunity to work on or review some other solar development plans as well?
Yes.
And can you just share with the board the general or sort of average height of panels that you're seeing that solar developers utilizing?
Yeah, they seem to range in about 10 to 12 feet.
And do you anticipate that the site plan for this project would be something similar?
Yes.
Now, I'm going to turn you're going to start looking at what's been marked as applicant's exhibit 4. So,
Do you wish to submit applicant 3?
yes, please.
Okay.
Thank you. Marty, can you please explain to the board, walk them through here, the first page of this, if you notice, applicant's exhibit 4 is a total of 4 pages. So Marty, if you could just explain to them what you did to prepare this, please.
Yes, the first picture shown, A, was taken from Maryland Route 30. You'll see the approximate location of where I was along 30, looking into the site directly toward the facility itself.
So, just to clarify, the first page shows the 3 locations where site photos were taken that then correspond with the letters of the photos, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Sorry, keep on going.
Then B is right along Charmel Drive, right past, over the church parking lot, looking into the property as well. You'll see where the existing parking is, and then the trees off to the left. They're pretty mature trees, creating a natural buffer to the actual solar farm itself.
Let me ask a question over there. I'm not sure
No, I'm sorry. He needs, no questions at this time. He's presenting his case.
I set a packet back there. Let me see if I have additional copies too, but I did,
That's all right.
I think I handed out all my other copies. I set one back there.
No,
I
I'm,
don't know if you can hold it up as well. And it's not gonna, it's gonna be difficult to see because it's on just a regular size.
The actual.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, you see,
we need,
One.
Okay, we gotta continue with their presentation. So
yeah, we can't
come back
interrupt.
up.
All right. Marty, I
Please.
think you're on, which page were you describing?
we just finished up B. Showing access from basically Charmel Drive and going, showing the parking lot, the church, and where, you know, you see some mature trees off to the left as you're looking into the site. And then C is basically at the end of Southwestern Avenue Boulevard, that it's right there where we would continue accessing the property with the 16-foot drive going into the site. From this point here, it goes uphill to the left, and then obviously starts sloping downhill. Everything will be downhill, downgrade to the right.
So there will be some limited visibility potentially, depending on the landscaping
Sure.
buffer as obviously, but there could be some potential visibility of the panels from some of the surrounding properties, could there not?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, obviously, these photos that you've taken do not indicate the landscaping screening that will be required as part of any site development plan, correct?
That's right.
Okay.
Correct.
And I think you just noted, but there's a variability in the topography, which will impact the visibility as well.
That's correct.
I'd like to ask that applicant's exhibit 4, which is the photos, please be entered.
Yes.
Thank you. Marty, in your opinion, do solar panels create any odors, dust, gas, smoke, or fumes?
They do not.
And I think you may have mentioned this when you were talking about the site access, but in your experience, is it generally typical for a solar company to desire some sort of fencing in addition to the landscaping buffer around the perimeter of their use?
They do.
Would that be something that you anticipate would need to be proposed and addressed as part of any site development plan process?
Yes, it will.
And are you aware, now, Michelle said it in her general zoning statement, that only a portion of this property is the subject of tonight's request for solar. Can you explain, if you know, what the intention is for the remainder of the property?
Yes. The goal is as we go through whatever's remaining from the solar farm would be what we can use as a forestry bank and plant it in forestry. It would stay that there, be deeded to the county as a forest conservation easement in perpetuity.
Are you aware and familiar with the standard for conditional use requests that's set forth in the case of Schultz v. Pritz?
Yes, I am.
And in your opinion, is the solar use being requested here today creating any adverse effect greater than it would if it was located elsewhere in the zone?
No, it is not.
Generally, how would you say the solar use compares to other uses permitted or conditional in these two zoning districts?
The solar use is probably one of the least intense uses that you can really have on a property. Other ones would generate more traffic, population, and everything else. and you obviously use of facilities, water and sewer.
That was what I was just about to ask you, Marty, which is there any water or sewer required for solar development?
It is not.
Okay. That concludes my questions of Mr. Hackett. But
Do you,
I'd like to open him up.
okay, do you wish to, exhibit number 5 to be submitted?
Yes,
Oh, I'm sorry.
no, that's fine. Exhibit number 5 is a copy of the Schultz v. Pritz
That's
case,
what you
right?
referenced.
Yes, and I'll delve into that a bit
Okay.
more in my closing statement, but yes, if you could please enter that, I'd appreciate that.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
I open it up to questions of the witness, and then
Has she finished, are you finished your presentation?
Yes, I've concluded my presentation.
All right, at this time,
Other than my closing statement.
questions from the board?
Yes. Thank you for your time. I was just curious on, overall, you mentioned there would be a fence, correct? 10 to 12 feet, or is that the solar?
They're the panels.
There's a panel. Okay. How high will this fence be? And I'm assuming it will be like just a.
6 to 8 feet tall.
Okay. Chain link. Thank you. Yeah, chain link fence.
Most of the time, they are chain link, yes.
Okay. Would it have like barbed wire on the top of it, or just simple?
Not normally.
Not normally. Okay. What would determine if you would put barbed wire on top of the chain link fence? Issues that occur after the initial fence was put up?
Probably.
Okay.
You know, I mean, there may be some around that have barbed wire, but it's
Yeah.
not a requirement.
Okay. Okay. How do you feel this will benefit the town? Like,
As Ms. Miller said earlier, there's these programs that you actually buy into, and they give you discounts on that as on your electric bill.
okay.
The other benefit is that there's zero traffic impacts. You know,
Right.
we put 40 houses there, that's considered 400 trips a day.
Yeah.
So we think there's a nice benefit. You know, there's something that this property's been a long time thinking, everybody was thinking there's gonna be some development. And it can have 40 homes right in these people, everybody's backyard with all the associated impacts. And now we have something that has very little impact.
I guess with, oh, I'm sorry.
No.
With the solar panels, the possible road going out from Southwestern, extending out to Route 30, that is going to eliminate that project. I mean, I feel like I'm looking at this map and I see a proposal for it, but it kind of goes right through the grid.
Well, currently, it's a reservation on the master plan.
Okay.
Okay, and the goal would be to request that, take it off the map at this point. If we're forced to have a reservation, we'll modify the layout slightly with the panels.
Okay.
That's really what happens, I mean, so,
We anticipate that would be certainly a conversation at planning commission level
yes.
as well.
Okay.
Yes, that's why we showed it on the location on the plan.
Okay. Am I limited to questions?
No.
And not that I'm foreseeing this, but if this plan were not to go as planned, that area, even though you said it would be removed so it doesn't become like a disarray, an eyesore, the grass will still be maintained until they are physically removed. It won't be just kind of left unmaintained until you figure out what's going to happen with it.
I think, I mean, Marty, I'll let you answer, but I think the answer to that would be at all times they're going to have to comply with whatever site development plan is approved. So whatever plan gets approved that defines the underlying conditions, whether that be grass or meadow or whatever, that plan has to be complied with. But I would assume that if, you know, in the worst case, which obviously we don't anticipate happening,
Yeah,
that something does happen and it needs to be decommissioned, it could be done fairly effectively, especially because of that financial security that's held by the town. It eliminates the need to then go to the developer and try to find them or get any sort of financial input from them. It's already there and it's secured by
Okay.
the town.
Thank you. Like I said, I'm not foreseeing that or wishing that upon you, but just kind of like, okay,
Worst case scenario.
does at that point, useless to us, and the grass being maintained or whatever gets pushed off, and then we have vines growing up the fence, and it
Right.
looks like an abandoned building.
Yeah.
So. Okay, I feel that concludes all the questions I have. I appreciate your time and answering them. Thank you.
Sure. Matt, you have any
Questions for
questions?
you? First, what's the lifespan of something like this? How long do these solar panels last, typically?
30 to 50 years.
Okay.
That's what they're assuming, and a lot of solar panels haven't been around that long to really test it, because it's quite new.
Are there any issues with glare because of the solar panels at the adjacent houses or Route 30 or any other areas?
Normally, glare is normally not an issue. They tend to absorb the sun, not reflect it as much as possible.
Usually the material component is part of the planning commission review process as well for that element specifically, I think, to make sure that there's not a negative impact. But those are things that a specific solar developer could answer very specifically depending on the material that they're proposing and the actual orientation of the way the panels are facing. All of those components go into sort of answering that.
How long does it typically take to build this? Assuming for a second that all the approvals, et cetera, how long?
You're probably looking at about 5 to 6 months, depending on if there's going to be any earthwork grading and stuff to do. And I'm using that as an example because if you notice the one that went on down near the roundabout on the 30 bypass, it looked like it was about under construction for about 5 to 6 months total.
That's all the questions I have now.
Bill?
So these are about 10 to 12 feet in the air, the panel themselves? Is that what you said?
That's correct.
So what's underneath of it? Is it grass or is it stone?
It's grass. The panels have footers.
Okay.
So the disturbance is, if you just use the field alone, you put the footers in where they go and the panels bolt to that and they build up from there. Everything in between it and underneath is still grass. And it's a meadow mix. And it basically, it's a very slow grower, so they don't have to maintain it as much.
Okay. So would this site be similar to the one down by the roundabout in Hampstead as far as how it's built and the large level areas?
As far as the grade on it yet, we have to go through obviously stormwater management, and there's special criteria that we have to do, so they're gonna have to, we'll have to figure out whether or not we're gonna do quantity management by way of one facility and leave the grades more where they are, or are we gonna grade it a little bit to get the slope to within a reasonable amount where we can eliminate some of the facilities, or actually go to a lesser type of facility. And we're not working with a piece of flat land quite like they had down at Route 30. The existing grade was much flatter.
But it can be done without making a flat piece of land like that?
That's correct.
Okay. 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 And then you were talking about the fence earlier, the chain link, will that also have like panels in the fence so you can't see in, like strips or? Did you ask about that?
A blind type.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I think we anticipate that planning commission will probably have a lot of input on the
Okay.
type of fence that anyone proposes. I don't, we've seen some examples of what other developers around the county and state have proposed, but I would anticipate that your planning commission would probably look pretty hard at the type of fence and might require, for example, that if they thought it was beneficial, or the opposite if they felt that was beneficial. So I think that will probably be a pretty open dialogue as we go through a site plan.
Okay, and I just have one more. So if this was passed tonight and it went through and you built it 15 years down the road, if it's taken down because of this zoning change, will there be able to be the same amount of houses put in there, or more, less, or any at all?
The request here tonight has no impact on the underlying zoning of the property. And I'll refer to Mr. McCarron if he wants to correct me or chime in. But the request here tonight is for the conditional use approval of the solar use. I would say that 15 years from now, if that happened, potentially another solar developer could come in and reestablish the solar that's approved here, or it could revert back to the underlying zone. Nothing about the zone itself is changing here tonight, and perhaps there could be a proposal for residential if they could meet the other requirements. That would still be limited by that
Okay.
annexation agreement that was entered into, though, that applies to this property specifically.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question about walking the properties, which I have. Such a large amount of mature trees that is in everybody's backyard. With the development of the panels or with the setbacks, will those trees have to be removed or trimmed to where you're going to lose that natural barrier?
I think we're gonna have minimal disturbance that close to the property lines or even where the panels are. Most of these panels are out where you see, corn and all right now. Most of the stuff is in that area.
Okay, but the grading of the property, it's so steep at places coming down to the wetlands there at 30 with all the cat o' nine tails and that. I guess that's going to be taken care of at the zoning as far as the water runoff or trying to control it.
That's correct. We gotta go through the old stormwater management review. We gotta go through grading, sediment control, the whole 9 yards. This is the very beginning of a process.
I understand.
Yep.
Okay. All right. At this time, I would like to call people. I have a list of people who wish to speak, and you come up one at a time, state your name, your address for the record. Maurice Biden. Oh, sorry.
The audience has a right to cross-examine the witness, should they so desire. So at this juncture, it'd be appropriate for anybody in the audience who wishes to ask questions of the witness to do that first before.
It's not on.
Is that better? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's better. Okay.
Okay.
So at this point in time, I think the proper process is that folks in the audience can cross-examine or ask questions of the witness at this point in time. And then once that's done, and assuming there's not rebuttal, then Ms. Miller would would call her next witness, and we would go through the same process. Once the applicant's case is over, its presentation is over, then we would switch to the folks in the audience who have signed up to testify, to one by one come up and give testimony. So where
Thank you.
we're at now is that the audience members can ask questions of the current witness.
Okay.
I didn't know there was a list. Can I?
Sure.
There is a place here we get to that we ask people.
Yes.
Can I just tell you my name and just write it down on there?
Sure.
My name's Steve.
Okay, Steve.
Thank you.
All right, Maurice. Well, yeah. Questions from the audience, then please stand up and have your question. Okay. Please come forward and use the microphone.
Good evening, everybody. I apologize for interrupting the meeting earlier.
That's all right.
Mr. Hackett, thank you for coming here. My name is Chris Ettridge. I live at 2915 Southwestern Avenue. Can you tell me, I guess colloquially, what a Class A screening is? Typically, or give an example?
Sure, it's gonna be, and it's gonna be twice the requirement, but it's gonna have, evergreens, it will have some hardwoods, major deciduous trees, but they'll concentrate a lot on the evergreens, to create the best screening possible. And normally they're a little faster growers. And we'll focus on areas taking consideration the in the ordinance, we can, along the property lines that don't have anything, because there are some properties there, as you're going in, just to the left, going up that line, there's a portion there that doesn't really have that much vegetation on it. We'd concentrate in those areas.
And would that screening be outside of the fence?
Yes, it would.
Okay, so
Yes.
once it's all filled in, it should be very minimal
Yeah,
view.
we would probably be about 10 feet off the property line
Okay,
along those areas and start our buffer there. And then it's going to be basically the closest one I saw it's about 140 feet away, but the setbacks we're about 90, 95 to 100 feet in from there with the
That's
first
where the
panel-
fence
with
will be.
panels. And the fence will be maybe 10 feet closer.
okay, understood.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Please come forward.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Shirley Wood, and I live on Castlefield, right next to the project. You confused me about the land, about leveling the land. From my perspective, I'm looking down the slope. I'm looking at a hill, and I'm looking down. In fact, I've ridden down it on my butt during the snowstorm. So I'm kind of confused about how you see this being leveled.
It's probably not going to be level. There's going to be areas where we may try to grade it to under 10%, in areas where we can. It changes our stormwater management requirements. Instead of having one large facility like a pond facility excavated, and again, everything when it's done being graded, and again, it may not, but I'm anticipating it's going to be.
Okay. I also have a question about the buffer, or the easement, or whatever you're calling it. Maryland law, I thought, required 100 to 150 feet of buffer from it's 100 from the property line and 150, I guess, from the closest home. I noticed you had 90, I think it's 95 from where I live. I can't tell if it's from our property line or if it's from an actual wall that is built there and has a fence. Do you know?
I'm not aware of any 150-foot setback, but they specifically have it in the town code on what we address.
Okay, so you're not applying, you don't have to pay attention to what the Maryland, they just passed a law, I think, in
I
May.
think we would have to comply. I'm unaware of that, but if there is a Maryland law that exists that sets a setback, I think that would have to be complied with through the planning commission process. The plan that's shown here tonight complies with what the town code currently says.
Okay.
But if there has been a recent change, it's possible that that's just not in
Yeah,
the
I
town
think,
code
yeah,
recently.
okay. It also has had a lot of information in that same law about vegetation or the plantings that you're doing. Because, and I know that I've seen some of the plantings in Carroll County, and one evergreen really doesn't cut it. You know, for every section of the chain link fence. It's just, that's not what I would expect. Do you know anything about the heat island? That I've read is caused by solar panels.
I'm not aware of that.
Do you know anything about PFAS that over time with the degeneration of the panels that can leach into the ground?
I'm not aware of that.
Huh, okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have one question. My name is David Bentley. I live at 2746.
Please come to the microphone, David.
I just have a question about the the old road that was coming in. I didn't really hear what you were saying. What was going to happen with that? So the proposed road that was coming through here, if the solar panels do go in, is that going to be eliminated, or would that be future access to the development?
We don't know at this time.
Okay.
It's going to be addressed as we go through the site development plan process, provided we get approval. here
What
this
was the
evening.
road proposed for?
It was a planned street that would tie Southwestern Boulevard over to Maryland Route 30.
Just for the development?
No, it would tie it all the way through. It would be through traffic.
Correct, yes, but it was just for the development. It has nothing to do with the solar panels.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Steve, and my wife Carol and I, we live on Charmel Drive. You know, when I first looked at this, when I came in here tonight, that looks like a campground to me. And we're in one of those sites on this campground. And we have a gorgeous view of that whole area down to the pond and everything that we love. And I understand that you plan on planting trees along that line so we don't have to see the ugliness of the panels. Is that what you're gonna do? You're gonna put trees all the way down the backyards that run all down Charmel Road?
We have to meet the landscape requirement, the minimum landscape requirements, which is twice the criteria. And from the landscaping, after that's done through the site plan process and all, then our proposal is to basically plant whatever we can in forestry. That would
So what your thought process is that the people living on that road then will be shielded from seeing the solar panels, but changing the entire view of the valley and the pond that we currently have with our houses on Charmel? Is that what it's gonna look like?
years from now, it probably will.
Okay. And how about the wildlife down by the pond and everything that lives down there? How are they gonna be affected by what you guys plan on doing landscaping and removing the land source for that? Has that been looked at all?
Not to date, no.
No, okay. Is it going to be looked at?
As far as the wildlife, obviously, when we plant the forestry, the trees are small. They're saplings, basically. And then from there, it takes the years it takes to mature.
Right,
But there's still grass,
Right.
there's still meadow.
but it changes the scenery. It affects what we bought when we bought the house.
My guess is yes.
Okay. The other thing I heard you say was that once this solar division is put in, that people have an opportunity to buy into the source of the solar energy. Is that correct?
That's my understanding.
That's the general premise of community solar. Community solar, and the way that, because you don't have, it doesn't have to be community solar, right? But in the town, it does. The town calls it out and says that community solar is as defined in the Maryland Annotated Code, which then pushes it into that category. There's other solar that exists that's not like that.
Okay.
But in Manchester, that's not an eligibility under these zoning classifications. Anything on this site has to be community solar, which the basis of that is that there's a subscription type of service where one can buy into for a reduced rate that then is a credit on an electric bill.
Okay.
And there's the Maryland Annotated Code speaks a little bit to the geographical component of who that has to serve, and it ties it in within a certain proximity to the site so that it's not like this is benefiting California, for
Okay,
example.
right.
So that's all sort of included and very detailed outlined in the Maryland Annotated Code that then is brought into your town code by virtue of the definition of community solar in your town code.
Okay, so what we're looking at here with this solar development, are you telling me that people outside of our campground, as I see it, can buy into the discount for the solar energy that's going to be coming from this?
Probably, you mean like people beyond your home
Yeah,
sites?
yeah.
Yes, probably. The
Okay, so why
location
don't
is
we
not
get it?
that close.
Okay, well, we should get it for free. We got to look at it. Okay,
I would
we got to
encourage-
deal with
I
it.
would encourage you.
We
to
should, that
be
should be
vocal in the
free
planning
and
commission
double
site
charge
plan
them.
process.
Okay. I see how it works. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mark,
So my name's Scott Fisher. I live on 3242 Charmel, so one of the corner lots right next to the church, in case just for reference. But again, before we build this monstrosity, has there been any type of survey with the town itself or whoever would be served by this community disaster that, that even we want to buy into this. I feel like before any of this is even thought about, the first thing maybe we should do with the folks who could even be eligible for it is to be, hey, would you be willing? Would you be interested in this? Because I have a feeling that that's going to be a big negative. So before we even think about another, I mean, whatever this is going to be, it's ugly. It's a terrible idea. But that's just me. But like I said, let's do a survey with the town. Whoever is eligible to buy into this, would you be willing to? Would you be interested in? Put that out there first before we even think about destroying the environment and the ecosystem in this situation.
Is it? Okay. Yes, come up, Maurice.
Hi, Maurice Byan, and I live at Castlefield also. And it's very interesting, Steve, some of the comments you have there. One is view shed. It's going to destroy a view. You said panels might be 6 to 8 feet, or 10 to 12 rather, but the fence is only 6 to 8. And then there's some landscaping possible.
Well, that's required.
Yeah, so it's still gonna ruin a view, which would then affect property values.
It will affect property value.
Yeah.
It's just, this is time for questions of the witness, not statements. So if you have questions of the witness, you can certainly direct.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Meaning you get to make a statement later.
All right, one question then. You know, ordinance 244 passed by Manchester back in 2020, I think, was very good, and it mandates quite a few restrictions or conditions for putting in solar panels or solar farm. The young lady did answer quite a few of those questions that I had, such as setbacks, which is double the amount according to 244. There are other issues, landscaping, it was supposed to be enhanced, whatever that might mean. But my question is, the Maryland legislature passed House Bill 1036 back in July, and it was signed into law by Governor Moore, which kind of prohibits counties or municipalities from imposing overdue or unduly restrictions on solar farms. Does any of that 1036 legislation affect ordinance 244?
Not that I'm aware of. I think, I can't speak for certain, but I think that what you see there is some jurisdictions imposing 600-foot distance requirements, and the state coming in and saying that's unreasonable. From what I've seen, the distances set forth in your code are not to that level where the state is reining them in. But we'll have to look at that as part of the site plan process, of course, to make sure that it's not conflicting with the state code. But there's nothing that struck me in a review of your code that I felt would.
And then the other is the access road for emergency vehicles would be off of Charmel Drive or Southwestern?
It's all Southwestern.
Okay. And
It's not for emergency vehicles, it's for main.
well, I'm just saying, if
Well, it
there
would be if it needed. I mean,
were a
emergency
fire.
services will have to review the plan as well as part of a planning commission site plan review.
Yeah,
So
but
if it
if there
needed to
were
be,
a fire
yes.
on these panels,
Yes.
Which is not unusual, does our fire department have the resources and the training to combat a fire of that nature?
I can't say yes or no, but I
Yeah.
can say that emergency services is a reviewing agency as part of the site plan process. So if this is approved here tonight and a technical plan is submitted, they will be a reviewing agency and they will issue comments such as your access isn't wide enough for our truck, or we're worried about this, or here's a concern, and that will have to be addressed and dealt with through the site development plan process before then any approval is received.
I have a dumb question, because I don't really need this, I'm pretty loud. What he just said, it just made me think of what you said, which was there's no water. There's no water at the site. So should there be an issue, where are you tapping into water?
Go ahead.
I think think we'll wait and hear from the emergency services on their review of the plan. I think, I mean, Marty might have some specific ideas on what they would utilize, but that would be part of their review of the plan, to go, we have this concern, or we don't have this concern, and here's, how that gets addressed.
Because we live in a private community and we pay for everything. Everything. So, we're kind of protective of our water hydrants. Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, you want to? Yeah, I forgot what it was now. Yeah. No, as far as property values too, I mean, there are studies showing that the planned site near neighborhoods would affect some of the property values, so, but you can't address that now, can you? Yeah.
None of us are qualified or certified real estate appraisers,
All right.
so we can't answer that.
Okay.
Okay, so this is 17 acres that you're taking away from wildlife. There's a lot of wildlife that lives back there. They depend on this, and you're putting it in a fence. They can't even get to the area. So you're taking all that area back there it's very, very unique. And you're going to take it away for solar panels, which is the community even going to really get use out of it? I mean, he's talking about, yeah, we should get it for free. Are you going to sell it to BG&E? I mean, that's probably how you're going to make your money. You're selling it, or you're really going to? Is the community going to get it? Are they going to be able to use it? Are you going to? That's one thing. The other thing is when this project goes away, it's going to only last for 25 years. You take it away, then you can put something else there. You can put some other business there. You can use it for whatever you want. If this gets converted it changes over to a business. You understand what I'm saying?
That's
And
not
then
the
this is a
request here
big
tonight.
deal.
The request here tonight
This
is
is an
not to
area
change the
that
underlying
is
zone.
Definitely unique. And you don't have an area like this where there's wildlife, they depend on this, and now you're gonna put solar panels there? I mean, no.
I have one quick follow-up question. The tree buffers, or the type A screening, I think that you called it, the trees, will they just be surrounding the panels, or will they be surrounding the entire perimeter of the entire 55 acres? You follow my question?
It's probably gonna focus around the panels mostly.
Okay, so the pond, the other areas will be largely undisturbed?
That's correct, except the plan is to put the forestry and create a forestry bank.
Okay,
Yes.
understood. Thank you.
Just a quick question. Most of the people around me are probably on town water. I do have a well, and I was wondering if there's any research as in the water runoff on these panels, if that could cause a problem with the water that I drink.
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. Ma'am,
Just questions.
That's the question.
Questions. That's all that's happening now.
if there's any other questions for the witness? Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Hackett is my only witness here tonight. Mr. Hill here is here in case any questions arose that needed him, but predominantly Marty is speaking to the specifics of this. So we will take our seats and listen to the testimony. Thank you. Oh, good. Just gonna grab my-
Okay, now, are there any other adjoining property members who received notification of the hearing and who are sworn in and would like to make a statement in the case? Come forward one at a time. State your name for the address record and present your case. And I'd like to call Maurice. I know, you can say again. We've done that.
I
Is there
think we
anybody?
just did all that, yeah.
Okay, Scott, he's answered. Shirley Wood, yes. Jeff Waters, did he speak? No, I sent a letter in. Okay,
Yes.
all right, yes, I did see your letter and I haven't read it. Carol, we've heard from Carol, we heard from Chris, and David Bentley, and Stephen. Okay.
Okay.
As to any of them, is there anything that you have not already said that you wish to say? Then one at a time, they should be permitted to say anything additionally haven't already said. Yep.
Okay, then come to the microphone and make your statement.
Hello. My name's Christy Fisher. I live at 3242 Charmel Drive. Yep, sorry. I don't public speak well. My concern is health concerns. I have a family, I have children, we spend a lot of time in our backyard, and this is essentially going to be in our backyard. I know solar farms are newer, and there's not a whole lot that's all known about them, but the equipment does emit low levels of radiation, possibly cancer-causing. They cause electromagnetic hypersensitivity due to the EMF radiation fields. It can cause increased headaches, dizziness, nausea. I have a daughter that's prone to migraines, and I don't want her to have any more problems than she already has. You know, the surface groundwater, if the panels have damage, they can be contaminated due to the panels containing toxic chemicals like lead and cadmium that can leach into our ground. The panels do emit a humming noise. I've started to do some research, so you have to bear with me. But they do emit a humming noise. It's and there's a loud, persistent noise from the power inverter that will essentially also be in our backyard. I don't know if it's going to be lit up, but it could also be bright lights at night. From what I've seen, the suggested living distance from a solar farm is 1.2 miles to avoid any adverse effects, and we're essentially getting 100 feet. So the ones I've seen are in the middle of open space, and I think that's for a reason, and I don't feel it's safe to put one so near to our homes. I've lived here my entire life. I work at the elementary school, and I don't want to have to give up my home for the well-being of my family. So if you wouldn't put it in your backyard, I just ask that you don't put it in mine. Okay? Thank you.
Is this statement time and not question time?
You've,
Correct.
yeah, statement. Steve, or somebody.
My name's Scott Fisher, again, 3242 Charmel Drive. For reference, right here, and on the map for you guys. Let me see here, I got lost again. Right here, all right. Again, I understand these plans are tentative, but I would please ask all of you guys on this panel to just look up. I didn't know this was a thing, but the first thing when I started to Google solar farm was noise, and I didn't think solar panels themselves would make noise. The inverters and release an industrial buzzing sound that's constant all the time. Judging by this picture here, and I understand it may change, but those inverters would be right off of, because usually they're right inside the gate, so it's easy for maintenance. Those would be essentially in my neighbor and mine's backyard. So to listen to this industrial humming all day and night would, I mean, no one wants that. No one would, you know. Again, my wife mentioned all the toxic chemicals, the toxic metals that are made in the production. In California, they have a huge problem in their landfills now. They have all these panels. Again, we're talking about California, one of the most liberal states in the country, where they've been pushing solar longer than here. Now, there's nothing, these things are only lasting 15, 20 years, not 30 to 50 years like Mr. Hackett said. So now they have this huge pile of toxic panels that they have no way of getting rid of them. at this point. There's no plan. They have to come up with a way of either recycling them or something, but right now there is no ability to do that, so they're just a heap of toxic metals. Australia did a study that revealed that people who live near solar farms are more likely to experience headaches, dizziness, nausea, and also an increased risk of cancer. And the only suggestion that they put out was to move away from the solar farm. The World Health Organization put out a study, and the risk of electromagnetic hypersensitivity, again, headaches, fatigue, skin irritation, sleep disturbances, and dizziness. Home values, nationwide, home values decreased significantly within a half-a-mile radius of a solar farm, and specifically quoted that homes in rural areas see a more pronounced decline. I think that would count for us in this area. Nobody wants to have to look at this in their backyard, and I know there's plenty of land that's a little farther away, but I mean, just be honest, to have this legitimately 95 feet away from my backyard, I mean, I just think it's an insult to those of us who, I mean, I've grown up here, lived here all my life, married my wife here, we moved our family here. I mean, we tried to raise a family in this neighborhood, and we love that backyard, and it's one of the, I mean, it's only ain't much, it's like not even a half acre, but it's my little piece of it's my little kingdom, and I love it, you know, and so I just, please, let's do the right thing for the right reasons. At least if nothing else, let's ask a survey of those who could get served by this community solar plant and see who's actually even interested in something like this, because I don't feel like it's coming from the kindness of anyone's heart. Thank you.
Hi again. I'm Shirley Wood. I live at 3006 Western Abbey. I like how he pointed it out because I'm there. Right in your backyard. Anyway, we must be reading the same stuff. I don't want to repeat all of that, but the one thing I will note is that there was a study done regarding home prices, and it's from the University of Rhode Island. We can expect that home prices within a mile will be affected by at least 1.7%, and those in less than a mile and most closest to the sites themselves, up to 7%. I moved to Carroll County 7 years ago. Lived in Baltimore County. I was very happy. But I had to size down, and it took us a long time to decide where to move. We could have moved into the other Castlefield development, which is surrounded by roads and other houses. And we saw this new development, and quite frankly, the view was beautiful. We love the wildlife, and from an emotional standpoint, I love this home, and I've really loved living here. But I don't like the idea of living next to a solar farm. In fact, as part of the research of what I've been reading, there was an anecdotal story from a man who lived in North Carolina, and he was preparing to buy a home, or actually a small farm. And the price at that time was 200 and something or whatever, and they cut a contract, and the next thing he knew, he had a solar farm going up next to his piece of property just bought. So he canceled the contract, and the realtor came back and said, "Would you pay $50,000?" And he said, "No. Who wants to live next to a solar farm?" So again, I would ask you to take it into consideration, because we don't want to live next to a solar farm.
Was the gentleman sworn in previously? Were you sworn in already, or do you need to
Yes,
still be?
yes,
Oh,
I
you
was.
were. Okay, great.
Yeah. Well, I didn't do my homework like you guys did. I didn't know about medical stuff or, anything like that. My purpose of being here tonight is that people that live in this community, we have created a life outside of the misery that everybody frickin' lives in now. It's a small little group of people that have been in a community that's beautiful. And we're talking 17 acres, right, is what this is? You could get in your vehicle and find a 17-acre field in 10,000 places in Carroll County. What would be the point of putting that where we live? I don't understand the need to be there. And the people that live here, they're the ones giving up everything. Nobody else is sacrificing for that. Nobody outside this room that lives there. Take it and put it somewhere by the railroad tracks or God, anywhere. And then let that area buy your electricity and do whatever they're going to do. I don't want trees replacing my scene where I'm sitting on my deck having a Crown Royal, got the grill fired up. That's not what I want to see. I want to see what we see. We got the pond down there. I shoot off fireworks in my backyard, man. You know, and this is not the place for this. You guys need to find somewhere else. And I know the people that are sitting in here aren't going to let you just walk in and do it. Okay? Go up the road 10 miles and make a left. And you've got everywhere that you can put this stuff. This is not the place to put a solar farm. There's too much to give up. And it's not worth it for us. So I think I speak for a lot of people here tonight. We don't want this in our backyards, and our backyards go all the way around this thing. So I would hope that this panel could find another more suitable place for this solar farm to be put rather than a residential area. People talking about the one down by the bypass. Double it down there. You got room to do it. It's railroad tracks. Nobody cares. But I think we care. And that's it. That's all I got to say.
My name is Chris Ettridge, 2915 Southwestern Avenue. Just one question. How does this benefit the town? There is no tax revenue. I mean, people complain about the traffic. If we would have was it 40 homes that were originally allocated for this development as an addition to Manchester Farms? Frankly, I'd prefer that. We're going to get the increased tax revenue. 40 homes I don't see as the end of the world, but I see no benefit from a solar farm. That's just what I ask you guys as you make your decision to please consider. The gentleman that spoke before me, there's a lot of other land that not smack dab in the middle of Manchester. Thank you all for your time.
At this time, I'd like to ask, is anybody that was not sworn in, please come forward and be sworn in and make your statement. No one is present. Okay, at this time, I'd like to ask the applicant for their final statement in the case.
Thank you all for your time here this evening. We understand that there are some concerns. These concerns are ones that we have heard, ones that were included in the file before tonight. And we are here tonight with a request that meets your zoning code. The proposal here tonight is consistent with the town's comprehensive plan in that it serves the purpose, or I shouldn't say purpose, but the benefit of not taxing public facilities. There is no, as you've heard, no water or sewer need related to this, and there's also no school capacity. I mean, pretty obvious, right? But there's no school capacity required for this development, which would be required for residential development. there's a section of your code that speaks to some criteria that this board is tasked with looking at in these hearings. That section is 25112, which provides some guidance for this board. And the testimony that you've heard tonight emphasizes that this project, if approved, would have no impact to residential density, would not generate distinct noise, dust, or odors that would otherwise impact the community, has a very low traffic impact, would not disrupt the surrounding community. We've heard visibility, and I'll get to that in a second, and is generally a very low impact use as it requires, like I said, no public facilities. You have your code that sets forth that guidance, which you've heard all testimony to tonight from a qualified expert in land use and planning. In addition to the criteria set forth in your code, and really in place of that criteria, we have the case of Schultz v. Pritz, which is the case that I included in your packet for tonight. And that is the seminal case in Maryland that sets forth the standard which Board of Zoning Appeals are tasked at looking at and determining whether a conditional use or special exception request should be approved. And the reason I included that for you in your exhibit packet is because there's certain pages with quotations that speak to that standard. And the one I'll point out to you is on page 10 of the PDF. If you're really looking at the case citation, which probably only Mr. McCarron's paying attention to, it would be page 15. But the PDF, it would be page 10. And what this case says is that what it asks you to look at is, would the request, if granted, result in an adverse effect upon adjoining and surrounding properties unique and different from the adverse effect that would otherwise result from the development of such a use located anywhere within the zone. And that's a lot of words, right? But what that case really says is you are supposed to look at this use, solar. Is this use that you've heard tonight generating adverse effects more than a solar development anywhere else in the R20 or R15 zoning district? And I'll submit to you that it's not. We've heard the concerns related to visibility. We've heard some of the, I'll say, unsubstantiated concerns related to health. And those are not reasons under the Maryland case law to deny an approval for a conditional use that otherwise meets the legal standard. If we're looking at that, I think this is the same PDF, page 10, this case was kind of reliant on the criteria of traffic. So it's not similar to solar, but it is, you make the analogy, right? And what this case of Schultz v. Pritz says, and the example that the court provides in this case in assessing an adverse effect, is an analysis of traffic. And what it says is, where the potential volume of traffic under the requested use would appear to be no greater than that which would arise from permitted uses, we believe it arbitrary, capricious, and illegal to deny the application on vehicular traffic grounds. So what that's saying is that if this solar request here creates an adverse impact greater than elsewhere, that would be the grounds for denial. And I do not believe that there's been any evidence submitted to you tonight that proves that the request here tonight creates an adverse impact greater than it would on any other property that is zoned R15 or R20. If we look at the R15 and R20 zoning districts, some of the uses that are allowed by right and by conditional use have a variety of intensity. I'll submit to you, I would say most of them greater intensity in terms of all of the elements that we're looking at, but some of them include churches, schools, and colleges, which are principal permitted uses, beauty parlors or barbershops, medical clinics, funeral establishments, country clubs are among some of the conditional uses allowed in those two zoning districts. And I would say to you that all of the testimony and evidence that you've received tonight shows that the solar request is less intense than any of those. It does not generate traffic. It has additional setbacks. It has additional landscaping requirements. It does not generate a water and sewer need. It does not tax school capacity. And so for all of these reasons, it is less intense in those zoning districts than other uses that are allowed. The concern about visibility is something, I mean, I think everybody here knows it. It's a concern that would be relevant for any use in that zoning district. The height that you heard testified to is arguably lower than any other building that could be constructed on this site by right or by conditional use. So any of the uses in your zoning code would generate a concern about potential visibility from surrounding properties. And I would say to you that that is not enough for a basis of denial here tonight, and we are requesting that you approve this conditional use based on the case standards set forth in Schultz v. Pritz and based on all the evidence and testimony presented to you in tonight's hearing. Thank you very much for your time tonight.
Excuse me, no speaking out. At this time, I'd like to ask for the others for their final statement. Sir?
Can I ask Mr. McCarron a question?
It's not, no. You can make a closing statement if you'd like.
I'm curious if the town is open to any liability if this is denied legally. Are we required to approve this zoning variance based on legal issues, or is it up to the town? Is my question.
There are certain requirements of the board for approvals, and they must be met. They can't deny something that things are being met that should be approved, if that makes any sense to you. But they have certain legal things they have to follow.
So if all the legal ramifications are met,
Absolutely.
we have to approve this or risk legal action. Is that a fair statement?
You basically can't do it because how you feel about it. It has to be illegally done. Now, I can tell you that there have been uses that are things that have been approved in the past, and once they go to planning and zoning, not that they lose that approval, but planning and zoning can put a lot more requirements on it. They can size it down, they can move it where they want, they have more control over what is concerning the residents.
I understand this is preliminary. Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you. Thank you. At this time, I'll ask the applicant if there's any rebuttal, if any. None, no rebuttal. This time I close the meeting. And the board will discuss it.
Well, the deliberations have to be in public, in open session. Oh, gotcha. Okay. What's that? No, it has to be in public. So you have to be in public. Can't be a private conversation.
Okay. Yeah, I guess you could. We can.
So
Michelle,
why don't we return to the microphones, because anything you say has to be recorded.
Okay.
We're still in an open session and must be by law.
Okay.
And then you'll call for a vote at some
To
point.
your microphone and ask Michelle a question. And we can ask that question because she's the town person. So that's why we are closed to the public, and we're going to talk with our own people. Okay, you had a question, Matt. Shane.
Yes, Michelle. I was just curious, with this project,
Yes.
is there like a tax break through the state?
I cannot answer. I have no idea what we benefit from it. I do know that the last one that you guys approved was the Maverick Solar, which is the end of Grafton Street. And at this time, that's not complete yet, so we don't know what, if any, benefit it is. But it's, I can't answer that.
Okay.
It's still up in the air.
Yeah, they're not even done over there.
Okay.
It's been a couple of years.
Yeah, how long
Well-
has that been?
It took a while to get through the grading and some other issues they had. They had some issues with the solar company itself. I don't believe it would be
Okay.
a lengthy project like that again.
Thank you.
Okay, Matt, any concerns or anything you want to say? Anything you want to say, Matt?
No, not at this time.
Bill?
I just don't feel the town would benefit from it.
Okay. Then, do you have any other questions? Anything else?
Not at this time.
All right, at this time, gentlemen, do we feel like we want to come to a vote? At this time, a vote for denial or approval of this case will be taken. Votes are taken individually, with each member stating their reason for their vote. Votes are tallied, and we'll go from there. So, Bill.
I feel it should be denied because I don't feel the town will benefit from it. And I don't think it's a good place for it, even though it fits all the criteria. I just think it's going to be an eyesore for the town of Manchester.
So, nay.
Nay,
Okay.
sorry, I said deny. Nay.
Okay, for sure, denied, nay, okay. Shane?
I'm going to go with nay. I feel the town doesn't have anything to benefit from this. I just don't have a good feeling about this, and even though it meets criteria, kind of what Bill said, I just don't think it's, not that I completely want to roll it out at the moment, but at this time, I'm going to go with nay.
Thank you, nay. And then
I vote nay also.
William, okay.
Sorry.
No, go ahead. Nay, okay.
Yep.
And at this time, I'll vote nay. We have 4 nays. Meeting's closed.